What is a cause of death you certainly don't want to die from? Scaphism. You know, force-fed honey and milk until you poop yourself real hard while restrained, and then maggots and flies will start to eat you inside out. Diarrhea. My biggest fear is being crushed to death, or being stuck in such a way that I can't move. I don't have severe claustrophobia. I'll climb in a small enclosed space if it's safe, no problem. I used to do it all the time when I was a welder, but seeing pictures like this just give me high blood pressure. The story of that 16-year-old boy who got pinned by his van's seat and asphyxiated to death still troubles me greatly. He even managed to call 911 twice via Siri, but the police didn't come through. Image for your nightmares. Starvation. It lasts a long time and I can barely go a day being hungry. Eaten by an animal. Chances are you ain't dead yet. My mom used to be friends with a lady who got lost on an expedition and was eaten alive by polar bears. They only found her shoe with the food foot still inside and a few other pieces, as well as her backpack. Hey polar bear, we call them feet not food. Cancer or any terminal illness. As someone with stage 4 cancer, same. Acid rain. For that to kill you it would first have to go through your skin and bones to get to the vital organs. Depends on what kind of acid rain. The stuff here on Earth won't kill you. It's not near strong enough. It mainly wears away at stone and structures over a period of several years. The stuff on Venus though, that'll kill you horribly. Dying from a prolonged illness that will end up putting my family in debt. Brain-eating amoeba. Honestly, I just don't want to die with my penis out. Drowning. Drowning. Fire. It would be worse to survive it. In a plane crash. The actual impact isn't what I'm talking about. It's the unbearable amount of terror you'd experience before. Like you know you're going to die while hurling to the ground, and everybody in a screaming panic around you. Gets my anxiety up whenever I think about it. I'm going on a 9 hours plane trip next month and I have a severe phobia of them. Niece try God. Drowning. Almost drowned 3 times. None of them were fun. Please don't drown me. Many obvious ones have already been said, so I want to share something different. You wake in the night hearing a noise downstairs and cautiously go to check it out. Your worst fears are realized when you find a man dressed in black with a balaclava on. Wanting to protect your wife, you charge at him. There's a scuffle and you find yourself pinned down as he stabs you several times, leaving you too weak to stop him harming your wife. With your last bit of energy you reach up and pull off his balaclava only to see the assailant was your closest friend. Then you see your wife stood on the stairs. I'm sorry, she says coldly, we only did it for the insurance payout. I hate being woken up while sleeping. Fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. Adult patients eventually have to decide on what position they wish to predominantly take for the rest of their lives. Surviving a high-speed car crash only to come out of surgery, live in massive pain for 2 days and then your heart gives out from all the excruciating pain. Or surviving a fire but over half your body is covered in third-degree wounds, only to die weeks before being cleared to leave and having to spend all those years in the burn unit only to never see the outside world again. Anything that involves the toilet. Radiation poisoning. Imagine choked on a pea and die. And later people said you died a pitiful death and everyone took pity of you. May he rest in peace. Slowly wasting away in a retirement home. Cheese grater. Like being rubbed against a giant one going up your ass. Ant-Man going up my ass and expanding himself. Remember that scene in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs where they jump into a jello pool and get stuck under the surface? Created an irrational fear of getting stuck and drowning, suffocating in jello. That. Being skinned. Any. Immortality baby. Yeah, I've had some really up nightmares about the immortality baby getting me, too. That youth-sucking warlock. Plane crash. Don't want to die from thirst. Don't think a meth overdose is the best way either. Prefer living. Have you heard about that guy who died after having anal sex with a horse? That's definitely how I don't want to go out. Not taking care of myself. When I know that I can. Not enough people realize that they're taking their youth for granted. Myself included. Of course. That one torture method where they leave a rat on top of your stomach trapped and starve the rat so it digs through your stomach. Crucifixion sounds pretty bad too, or being burned in gasoline. An erection lasting more than 4 hours. Talk about die hard. Alzheimer. I have a seizure condition, and when I have had a seizure there is a period of time where I cannot remember certain things. For instance, there was an incident where I couldn't remember friends' names, or how to do basic things like wash the dishes. I could not muster any memory of how to turn the water on, use the dish soap, or how to actually clean the dish. It has lasted for upwards of a week, and it's scary, because you cannot communicate meaningfully with others, so I couldn't imagine being like that without recourse. Old age. I don't want to die lying in a bed slowly losing function of my body as it shuts down. Killed by someone I know. I don't want to spend the last minutes of my life with the conflicting thought of all the moments I lived with that person versus what they're doing to me at the moment. Fear, frustration, sadness, betrayal, pain. Falling in an elevator. Sounds terrifying in itself. Lava. It's a lot worse than movies make it look. Spicy honey. Getting a sword stuck in my anus. Mental illness driving me to commit suicide. I think more than anything on earth I'm scared of Alzheimer's. To me it's just so sad. You live a long, healthy life, with so many beautiful memories, to just have them ripped away from you. You forget you're so, then your kids, then everyone else. Then what? You're alone in this world and you're stuck living with that hell. You die with nothing. No memories. No loved ones as far as you know, and that is the most heartbreaking thing to me. I'd rather die than deal with that. The hardest thing I've ever done was tell my great-grandmother I love her and she doesn't even respond. I don't want to live through that. No way in hell. Driving off a bridge into deep water. It's never happened to me, but for some reason the sound of a windshield cracking upon impact with water and the feeling of a seatbelt digging into my neck and hips pop up in my nightmares a lot. I have a hard time crossing bridges in vehicles. Thanks to that. Any of those fun old torture deaths like Thousand Cuts, scaphism, hung, drawn and quartered, or breaking at the wheel. Buried alive with an oxygen tube running into the coffin box, whatever it is you're buried in. Obviously it would suck if you were buried alive, but you wouldn't be alive for long. There's only so much oxygen in that enclosed area before you run out and ultimately die 6 or so hours give or take. Well, now imagine you're buried alive but have a tube running from the coffin to the surface that provides you with enough oxygen to breathe normally. You're stuck there for days until you die of dehydration. Days trapped in a tight, enclosed area with no relief. All you can do is sit there and suffer in darkness until your body finally gives out, or if you're lucky, die of shock. Sounds like a pretty terrifying way to go if you ask me. Buried alive. You can last a week with no food. You would suffocate, starve and die of dehydration with nothing to do except wait for death. Bees. Not the bees. Drown in the mud like soldiers during World War I. Dying from Alzheimer's. I've seen too many people in nursing homes and too many family members die from it. It hurts me now to think if I had Alzheimer's I'll forget the ones I love. I'll probably hurt them emotionally and physically. I might cheat on my so. People might say, yeah but you won't know. But that, I don't want it. I'm also taking care of my dad who has Parkinson's. It's another awful way to die. To slowly lose control of your entire body. And you're just a prisoner inside your own head. And it's not an instant death. It takes years. Being put in a big metal container naked, then having the container get heated by a fire. It would be way worse than just being caught on fire. John Jones, who got stuck upside down in a super tight cave passage in Utah and rescuers couldn't get him out. So they had to just let him die and then sealed the cave up. Yeah, not my ideal bucket kicking. I'm so glad I quit caving after my birth. I just got told of a case where a guy put a pantyhose over his head, added some cheddar on top and sat in front of a heating lamp, suffocated on melting cheese. Way to go. Smothered by a gang of puppies and then all of them trying to enter my body through my mouth. Fatal familial insomnia, a prion disease of the brain that causes progressively worsening insomnia, and takes around 18 months to kill you. The lack of sleep leads to mental and physical deterioration. In many cases, if you're a man you become impotent, and if you're a woman you go into early menopause. There is no cure. Sleeping pills worsen the symptoms. All documented cases have followed the classic 4-stage progression. Any prion disease. Really. That shit. Getting buried alive. Any way that dehumanizes me. When I die I want to look like myself, not decapitated or distorted in some freaky way. Bleeding from my head because I sneezed while sleeping. I had a friend who woke up to find the pillow drenched in blood. It turned out one of their lungs collapsed and they didn't wake up until quite a ways into it. Amazingly, they're still alive. I'm never sleeping again. Like that poor chick lost in the Odessa catacombs. Total darkness, panic, silence and just slowly fading from lack of everything. Cannot imagine a more drawn out and miserable way to go. So sad. Dying from Alzheimer's. I would hate not knowing who I am or who my family is when I die. This one is all too true. My grandmother died during the mid-stages of Alzheimer's. She would have long periods where she simply was not present in her own head, but she also had times when she was still the same person we all knew, if only for a few minutes to a few hours before she got exhausted and fell asleep, and then went right back to the memory problems and periods where she was nigh on unresponsive. There are some family members I can say this to and others I can't, but I'm glad she died when she did. It's not that I wanted her to die, but the disease was only going to get worse. And if she had to die, I'm glad it happened while she was even if only part-time still herself. The men in my family have been fortunately spared from it, so I hope and pray that I'll be as fortunate. But if it does happen, I'd rather go in the same way, rather than like my great-grandmother who was basically a vegetable by the time she finally had a stroke. She left years before she died. That. Death by lathe. It's not so much for me as it is for the poor who has to untangle me. Being microwaved. I just don't want my dog to see me die. 2 drops of dimethylmercury on the hands. The anguish of knowing your brain is slowly dying inside. Rabies. Being tortured. I just want a quick hour and lights out. Call it a day. I remember reading about this guy that fell into a pit of concrete powder, and he inhaled some of it. It set in his lungs, causing him to very slowly and painfully suffocate. Starving. Being dissected like cutting open your stomach and that stuff. If the subject is alive, this is referred to as vivisection. Get hung by my Achilles tendons. Falling in a crevasse was instantly a terrifying fear of mine as soon as I learned it's a thing. Just the thought of surviving the fall and lying there waiting, knowing you're gonna die in a few days. Animal attack. Specifically bears. Big cats normally bite the throat until the prey suffocates. Bears can't be bothered. They just start eating while the prey is still alive. Drowning is one of my worst fears. Glowworms. The way they kill their prey is one of the most painful ways to die in the animal kingdom. They use the silk stands to attract prey, paralyze them, drill a hole in the side of their head and fill their insides with stomach acid, then leave them for 2 weeks to digest. Nature's slow cooker. Respiratory distress. A couple months ago I was on a train when it stopped and asked all medical personnel to report to my car. I looked back and a man is on the floor with his girlfriend sobbing. Everyone went quiet so I heard him gasp, "I can't breathe," and I was so scared I would witness this man's panicked last breaths. After about 20 minutes they were able to get him stable enough to carry him off. Before I had never really thought of not being able to breathe as a terrifying way to die, but damn. Dying alone and slowly from old age, after everyone I know is dead. Weirdly, that's my ideal way to go. I want to die after everyone I love so I know I'm not leaving anybody behind. Autoerotic asphyxiation.